Welcome back to Overexposed, where today we're going to talk about everything that we know about the new upcoming reformulation of the Widelux Panoramic film camera. So let's dig into it. Everybody loves a panoramic film camera. After all, just take a look at the prices of the Hasselblad X-Pan cameras on eBay. At a minimum, you're going to be paying a couple $1,000s, and if the thing's in really good condition, you may be looking at a lot more than that. And it's easy to see why. Take a look at some of these samples I'm going to show you right now of these dramatic, cinematic, panoramic images. There's just no other look quite like it. Makes your images look like there's something straight out of a movie set. And obviously, I was very excited when just a few months ago, I heard that Jeff Bridges and Silvergrain Classics would be reformulating the venerable Widelux film camera from Japan from just a few decades ago. So let's take a look at everything we know about the new reformulation of the Widelux camera. I think first and foremost, it would probably be helpful to talk a little bit about what the Widelux camera was to begin with. It's a fully mechanical swing lens camera, and you can see the lens moves back and forth. The lens moves from one side of the camera to the other to expose the image. It doesn't really look like any other camera on the market. These cameras were first developed in Japan in 1958 by Panon Camera Shoku. There were both 35mm and medium format options of the Widelux. Looking at the camera a little more closely, it doesn't really have a shutter. It really just has a slit, which creates some interesting bokeh effects or kind of distortions in the image. I don't even know if you can really call them bokeh effects. Another crazy thing about the Widelux camera is it was produced all the way up until 2000, so you can actually find some pretty recent versions of this camera on the market, even today, in pretty good condition. But they're still going to cost you, a lot like the X-Pan. And one thing these beautiful mechanical cameras have in common with a point-and-shoot camera is that they're fixed focus from 5 feet to infinity. No focusing mechanisms at all going on inside the camera. No focusing whatsoever going on inside the camera. So that's pretty interesting too. And there were some very famous users of the Widelux film camera, NASA being one of the most famous of all. And due to all the wonderful qualities of the camera that we just talked about, there were lots of famous users of the Widelux film camera, NASA being one of the most prominent of all. NASA loved the extremely wide images, the really sharp optics of the camera, and another extremely famous figure who loved the Widelux was one Stanley Kubrick. Many of his photos from on set were taken on these Widelux cameras. But also, one of the most famous actors in the world, even today, took an interest in the Widelux camera, and that's one Jeff Bridges, and he's quickly going to become the protagonist in today's story. So follow me here. So if you didn't know, Jeff Bridges is a famous actor known for his roles in The Big Lebowski, Tron, True Grit, Iron Man, on and on and on. I mean, Jeff Bridges is in almost everything. And for years, Jeff and his wife have been taking pictures on movie sets. And he actually released a wonderful photo book of a lot of the images that he had taken on his Widelux cameras and perhaps some other cameras over the years on movie sets. The book was called Pictures. And I'll show you some images from that book and the book itself here. And this is the story as he tells it about his love of photography and specifically his love of the Widelux camera. He says that he first saw one of these cameras for the first time in high school. He said that his school photographer came around and took pictures, and I think he was taking a class photo or something like that, and Jeff noticed he was using this strange Widelux camera to take the shot. Jeff's love of photography was instilled in him then, but his acting career took off and photography kind of went by the wayside. And interestingly, the Widelux would circle back around for Jeff. The photographer who was taking pictures at his wedding was using a Widelux, again, probably for some group shots or just candid moments. But Jeff noticed that the photographer was using that Widelux film camera. And Jeff mentioned how cool he thought the camera was. And his wife, Susan, just being an awesome partner and a good listener, noted that Jeff enjoyed the camera and actually bought him one as a belated wedding gift. What a thoughtful thing to do. And that brings another character into the mix here for us, and that's Silvergrain Classics. Silvergrain kind of does a lot of things. They do workshops and tours, they have a lab, a studio, and they also publish an awesome photography magazine. So Silvergrain Classics, really cool. It was in the fall of 2020 that Silvergrain Classics interviewed Jeff Bridges for the first time. And throughout the course of the interview, they're talking about various different things, but Jeff, again, professed his love of the Widelux camera. He stated in the course of the interview how cool it would be if somebody could bring back the Widelux camera. The conversation went on, and as it drew to a close, Jeff wondered whether it would be possible to bring the Widelux camera back and what that would take. So that's kind of how everybody met. Silvergrain Classics linked up with Jeff and Susan Bridges, and the team that would eventually start the project off and running were formed. And I'm going to go over some of the names involved here. It was Jeff and Susan Bridges, like I talked about, but also some of the members of Silvergrain Classics. The editor-in-chief, Marwan L. Moisen, and Sharice Schuler. So Jeff and Susan Bridges would team up with Silvergrain Classics, and the project was off and running. They formed a company. The company would have one purpose, and that was to bring back the Widelux film camera. Awesome. But as soon as the project was off and running, it became really clear just how difficult the project was going to be, because Panon, the film camera company that made the Widelux camera in the first place, had been out of business for a while already, and all the plans and designs and all the information, the technical information that went into designing the camera, long since gone. So everything they would be doing completely from scratch. But maybe that would be for the best. The camera, first and foremost, would be made in Germany. They've already partnered with a German manufacturing company, and they're in the prototyping phase. So they're already off to a really good start. And this new version of the Widelux is not just going to be a copy of the original camera. They're actually going to seek to try to improve many of the problems that the original camera had with it. Many of the manufacturing methods used to make the original Widelux camera were those of a really small company. Those manufacturing methods oftentimes led to inconsistencies between models, defects that would rear their ugly head years down the road. Fortunately for us, a lot of those manufacturing methods have advanced, and this new camera that Jeff and Susan and Silvergrain Classics would be making would employ all the latest and greatest manufacturing technology. And in light of that, Silvergrain Classics has stated that this new camera would be manufactured to reliably high quality and consistency standards. So they aim to make a really excellent product. Another thing that Silvergrain points out, and they're a great company to already have the infrastructure in place for this, but they've stated that they're also going to have service and maintenance teams on staff for the camera. So you buy the camera from them, you're going to be able to send the camera straight back to Silvergrain Classics if something goes wrong. Super cool. And another thing that I think is really cool is that the camera is also going to be manufactured to be environmentally conscious. They're stating no plastics used in the camera at all. The camera would be made all out of metal and glass. So that's really awesome as well. It means that the camera is going to be manufactured with extremely high build quality, but also everything will probably be repairable. And I pointed this out earlier in the section, but the camera is already in the prototyping stage. So I've posted some of the images that have already been released of some of the components, the housing and whatnot. As soon as we get new images, though, we'll be on this channel talking about them. And it's also pointed out that Jeff and Susan Bridges have contributed significantly to the project financially. So what does all of this mean? Well, it means that we're probably getting another new film camera. And this is an exciting one because it's something that doesn't really exist on the market at all right now. I mean, of course, there are these cameras out there. We've talked about a few of them in the video already, the X-Pan. But those cameras are so darn expensive. Having a newly manufactured, perhaps even reasonably priced option, and I say reasonably priced, $2,000 for a new Widelux camera may actually be reasonably priced on the market is awesome. A camera that's going to be repairable, that's awesome. It's another option for film photographers out there, another new camera for us to shoot. And this camera fills a void in the market that just currently there isn't much out there. So let me know in the comments, guys, is this a camera that you all would be excited about? It's something that you think you'd pass up, or something that you'd have to wait and see? Anyway, let me know. And if you thought this video was cool, take a look at this video where I talk about a couple of other cameras that are on the horizon. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.